You're a winner. Today's a great day to be in real estate. This is Duanebeisner, sales manager and sales representative for ERA. For the quote of the day, I've seen extreme bravery from the least likely of people. Life is about the moments when it's all gone wrong. That's when we define ourselves. By Bear Grylls, star of Man vs. Wild TV show, or it could have been said by a realtor in the real estate business as well. And for the joke of the day, at graduation, everybody was going to get their diploma except Tom. At the assembly, Tom's entire senior class screamed, "Let Tom graduate! Let Tom graduate!" The principal, in a moment of weakness, agreed to give Tom one last chance. "Okay, if I have 5 peaches in my left hand and 5 peaches in my right hand, Tom, how many peaches do I have?" he asked. Tom thought long and hard and said, 10. And the entire senior class stood up and shouted, "Give Tom another chance! Give Tom another chance!" And for the business tip of the day, rare indeed is the salesperson that can be successful without being closely monitored, coached, and held accountable. Think about that one. And for the Darwin Award of the day, back in 2009 in Oregon, Jake reached the summit of Saddle Mountain, and then and there he informed his friends that he planned to make a controlled slide down the cliff face. He would meet up with them in the parking lot or on the trail down below. Some folks are satisfied with the risk and rewards of dune sliding and the chance of a 150-foot broken limb tumble. Not Jake. The 18-year-old decided to get her done down a 1,000-foot cleft instead. He slid pell-mell down the escarpment, and what was intended to be a controlled rock slide ended abruptly 1,000 feet below the summit when his body came to an immediate rest in a steep ravine. Friends were shocked and saddened. They said, because he's always doing stuff like that and always comes out smiling. But unfortunately, Jake isn't smiling anymore. Now for the social commentary, this is pretty interesting news. China passes Japan as the world's second largest economy. We all knew that day was coming, but after 3 decades of spectacular growth, China passed Japan in the second quarter to become the world's second largest economy behind us, the United States, according to government figures released early Monday. The milestone, though anticipated for some time, is the most striking evidence yet that China's ascendance is for real and that the rest of the world will have to reckon with a new economic superpower. Experts say unseating Japan in recent years, passing Germany, France, and Great Britain underscores China's growing clout and bolsters forecasts that China will pass the United States as the world's biggest economy as early as 2030. But that would make sense since they have about, 3 or 4 times our population. America's gross domestic product was about $14 trillion in 2009. For Japan, whose economy has been stagnating for more than a decade, the figures reflect a decline in the economic and political power that Japan has had as the world's second largest economy for most of the last 4 decades, according to World Bank. And during the 1980s, there was even talk about Japan's economy someday overtaking that of the United States. But while Japan's economy is mature and population quickly aging, China's in the throes of urbanization is far from developed, analysts say, meaning it has a much lower standard of living as well as a lot more room to grow. Just 5 years ago, China's gross domestic product was about $2.3 trillion, about half of Japan's. So in 5 years, they basically doubled and overtook. This country has roughly the same land mass as the United States, but is burdened with a fifth of the world's population. That's 1 out of 5 people are Chinese. And insufficient resources. Its per capita income is more on a par with those of impoverished nations like Algeria, El Salvador, and Albania, which, along with China, are close to $3,600. Less than that of the United States, where it's about $46,000 a year. Yet there's little dispute that under the direction of the Communist Party, China has begun to reshape the way the global economy functions by virtue of its growing dominance of trade, its huge hoard of foreign exchange reserves, and the United States government debt, and its voracious appetite for oil, coal, iron ore, and other natural resources. China is already a major driver of global growth, Say that 5 times fast. And the country's leaders have grown more confident in the international stage and begun to assert greater influence in Asia, Africa, and Latin America with things like special trade agreements and multi-billion-dollar resource deals. In Japan, the mood was one of resignation. Though increasingly eclipsed by Beijing on the world stage, Japan has benefited from a booming China as well because of the business moving production there to take advantage of lower wages and as local incomes have risen by tapping a large and increasingly lucrative market for Japanese goods. Beijing is also beginning to shape global dialogues on a range of issues, analysts said. For instance, last year it asserted that the dollar must be phased out as the world's primary reserve currency. Wow. And while the United States and the European Union are struggling to grow in the wake of the worst economic crisis in decades, China has continued to climb up the economic league tables by investing heavily in infrastructure and backing a $586 billion stimulus plan. This year, although growth has been begun to be a little bit more moderate, China's economy is forecast to expand about 10%, which is huge, continuing a remarkable 3-decade streak of double-digit growth. Wow. Anyway, so China is locked in a fierce debate over its currency policy, which you've probably heard of, with the United States, European Union, and others accusing Beijing of keeping the Chinese currency artificially low to bolster exports, leading to huge trade surpluses for China, but major bilateral trade deficits for the United States and the European Union. China says that the currency is not substantially undervalued and that it's moving ahead with currency reform. Although the economy is still only 1/3 the size of the American economy, China passed the United States last year to become the world's largest market for passenger vehicles. China also passed Germany last year to become the world's biggest exporter. China passed the United States in 2006 to become the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases, which scientists link to global warming. But China also has an ambitious program to cut the energy it uses for each unit of economic output by 20% by the end of 2010 compared to 2006. Interesting. Now for the real estate news, applications for public housing surge. Cities are being overwhelmed with applications for public housing units. In Atlanta, 30,000 people lined up to apply for 455 vouchers. In Virginia, the waiting list for first time in 3 years, there's a waiting list for the first time in 3 years, and it just added 2,400 people, and there are no vacancies. When Chicago opened its public housing list for the first time in a decade earlier this summer, nearly 215,000 people applied within the 4-week window. The federal government provides 2 million vouchers nationwide. There are 4 applications for every 1 vacancy, says Linda Couch, Senior Vice President for the policy at the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, an advocacy group. And another story, contingent offers are regaining popularity. Remember those? Offers contingent on the buyer's ability to sell their current residence are increasing in popularity. They were almost unheard of during the go-go early 2000s, but common 20 years before that, about when I got into real estate. Sellers generally don't like these kinds of offers because it puts them in limbo. If their buyer's home doesn't sell, they can be back at square one. Also, once sellers accept a contingent offer, they must disclose this to other potential buyers, and that can discourage a buyer prepared to make a better offer. Sellers who accept contingent sale offers can include an escape clause in the contract. This clause allows the sellers to notify the contingent sale buyers of a competing offer and that they must remove the contingency within a predetermined number of hours, usually 24, 48, or 72 hours, or lose the home. So as always, remember, this is the best buyer's market we'll ever see in our lifetimes. If you or anybody you know want to take advantage of it, call us here at ERA. We can help you anywhere in the world. And if you think about getting into real estate, give me a call. I'd love to talk with you. My number is 714-996-3000. This is Duane signing off. Happy trails to you. As always, proud to be an American.